Imagine a world where everything that was once familiar is now gone. Ancient cultures, from the Aztecs to the Australian Aboriginals, give voice about these types of events. Legends that encapsulate an earth burning out of control, and when it finally ceases, the people arise from their shelters, setting foot onto a landscape that is no longer recognizable. In the delicate nature of our own civilization, could everything we take for granted be lost forever? Connecting legends from differing cultures around the world isn't always cut and dry. In fact, while others are clear to what they wanted to disseminate, some legends only give partial mention of an event in what one would consider a timestamp. Others go into enough detail for us to be able to pick up that it is in fact connected to this specific time. An example of this is from South Africa. According to legends, there are 4 major cataclysms which altered the realities of those who lived through them. This particular one happens to be the earliest known. It's of a time when people had not experienced dusk nor dawn. A story of 2 suns and a mission which set a fiery wrath upon the world. When people were finally able to come up from underground, they discovered one of their suns had become the moon. The beginning of the 24-hour day cycle had been set in motion, and for the first time they experienced night. The ancient people of Taiwan left many stories of how things were. The Peiwan, another tribe from this part of the world, say there were 2 suns which sat low in the sky. There were no nights. It was hot and everyone worked without rest. In South America, the Mayan state, the Aztecs declared 2 suns rose in the east, making it too bright. Crow tribes from the United States Rocky Mountains talk about a rabbit who thought the sun was too hot for comfort, so he went to see what could be done. The Australian Aboriginals also have stories about events where 2 suns once existed. Some stories seem vague, like this one from the Kalispel tribe in Idaho. But are they? The descriptions of what occurred during this believed incident are abundant. In Taiwan, one of the stories state that 5 strong men were chosen for a task. The 5 hurriedly strode towards the sun. Yet the journey was far, and there seemed to be no way to reach the destination even after decades of searching for the sun. Not long after, they saw the other sun rising from the east, so they tried a second time. One of the arrows reached this sun. Suddenly, clots of blood plummeted down. Other tribes also depict the same story in different words. The Sioux of Taiwan say when they finally reached their destination, they first hid at the place where the suns rest. When one of the suns appeared, the god of death told his friend, "When I fire the arrow, you have to jump into the water with me." Eventually the sun was shot and oozed with hot, fresh blood. The god quickly jumped into the water, but due to hesitation, his friend was splashed with the blood of the sun and was killed. This blood from the sun, in other tales, is often referred to as tears, or rain which burns everything it touches. A Cherokee myth describes there being a moon and 2 suns. The most crucial among all of these stories is that at one point the world was set afire. A legend from China states that there were 11 suns and that 10 had to be extinguished. Though the story is different in the number of suns, it still tells the same story. The Crow tribes also repeat this in their stories. The Aztecs' chronicle of the 5 suns mentioned 2 suns rising in the east, and it was too bright, so the gods threw a rabbit into the face of one. The Bunin, also of Taiwan, mentioned that the son that had been shot in the eye gave some seeds to the father and son and told them that it would soon turn into a moon, and that if they follow the change of the moon's shape when planting the seeds, a harvest will come. This new world, after the destruction of the first, is also described by the Australian Aboriginals. But Walu feared that the combined heat of both her and her daughter would burn the people and set the land on fire, so she sent the daughter away to below the horizon. The Toltecs of South America, who preceded the Aztecs, said the first world was destroyed because its people acted wrongfully. They were devoured by ocelots, and their son also died. In Taiwan, after the mission of the 5 brave men, they remarked that the injured sun was pale rather than glaring, and has been so ever since. In Genesis, Adam is told not to fear. Another legend from Taiwan states, when the other son discovered that his brother had been mysteriously shot, he was scared into hiding. The earth turned dark. The community members were scared and offered sacrifices to the sun. After some time, the sun finally appeared, but returned to the west after a while, thus creating days and nights. An African bushman creation myth had this to say. Another story from Australia pronounced. The living creatures watched the sun in awe as she crept across the sky towards the west. However, when she finally sunk beneath the horizon, they were panic-stricken, thinking she had deserted them. All night they stood frozen in their places, thinking that the end of time had come. After what seemed to them like a lifetime, the Sun Mother peeked her head above the horizon in the east. The Earth's children learned to expect her coming and going, and were no longer afraid. This planet has been subject to many events throughout its lifetime, and while people have been a part of it, they have been carrying down the accounts of what they witnessed through written and oral tales. While we read over these stories, I believe it is important to emphasize, as science is warming up to the possibility that other species of hominids were capable of speech and writing. Some of these legends may not just be solely human in origin. In fact, a great number of legends make mention of people other than themselves in their accounts. We already know that our species interacted with Neanderthals and Denisovans, so the question also becomes, how many of these events weren't witnessed by us at all, but were adopted by way of interaction? Let me know in the comments whether or not you believe that some, or even a majority, of our ancient history originated from other hominids who we associated with. I'd also like to know if any of you have read other legends which relate to the Earth having more than one sun. I would also like to know if any of you have read other legends which relate to the Earth having more than one sun. Whether or not these stories are embellished, there is one common factor among many which the people felt the necessity to express, and that is of a world that claimed our moon was once a sun, and their fears during this process, where they believed they would never experience daylight again.